Hello, you are listening to the Mets in the UK podcast, your home for Mets content in the UK. You can catch us every Tuesday on Spotify, YouTube, and all good podcast hosts. You can also find us on Facebook, Instagram, Blue Sky, Threads, and X at Mets in the UK, or you can use the hashtag MITUK to get involved. This week, joined by Toria and Tracey. How you doing, Toria?
I am okay. I'm not quite recovered. I'm not recovered from last night / this morning yet. But be all right, ready to go again tonight. She says.
Of course, you are our night owl. And Tracey, how you doing this evening?
I'm good, thank you. How are you, my dear?
I am good. Very, very good off the back of last night's performance.
Yes.
So let's jump straight in with the recap from the last week. Mets played 6 games this last week, starting with a back-to-back series sweep, beating the Phillies for a 7-0 homestand. Mets are 12-1 at home this season, a club record to start the season. Interestingly as well, the Phillies have lost 8 out of the last 10 games versus the Mets and 19 out of the last 25 at Citi Field, which goes all the way back to 2022. You love to see it. Then the Mets went on the road to Washington, split the series with the Nationals. Alvarez, McNeil, Vientos, Nimmo hitting home runs. Brandon hitting 2 in the game last night to get a grand slam. Mets went 14 games without allowing a home run before the Nats hit one against McGill in his game the other day. Nimmo's great day at the bat last night. He hit 9 RBIs in Monday's game, equaling Carlos Delgado's Mets record for RBIs in a game. So well done to Brandon on that. So Mets 4-2 over the last week. Mets are the first team to hit 20 wins and the last team to have less than 10 losses. Best record in MLB, top of the power rankings. MLB finally put us there.
See how long that lasts?
Yeah, what are the thoughts on the last week of games? We'll start with Tracey.
I think the game before the last one against the Nationals was an embarrassment.
That's the one where we were 7-1 up and
yes,
then lose 8-7.
Yeah, that was embarrassing. Our bullpen has been so much better than that all season, and they just had a bit of a blip. And it is going to be just a blip. I've decided it's not going to happen anymore. Every team has a bad day. That was a bad day. We followed it with an amazing day. And can I just say that I love that we have been kicking the Phillies' ass. A lot of the Phillies fans are saying it goes back to the London series, and I wholeheartedly agree. It was the Torrens effect. And I've even seen Phillies fans saying, can we have a do-over of the London Series 2024? Absolutely, we can. We'll see you there, and we'll be cheering the loudest. And that's all I've got to say on that.
Yeah, absolutely. MLB Europe, if you are listening, please rearrange. We'll have a redo gladly. Go and watch that all over again. I think you're quite right on the 7-8 loss. It's important to remember, we've had a really good start to the season, but this team, they're still human. Like, they will make mistakes. They're not perfect. The pitching lab, as great as it is, isn't the messiah that's going to make us, win every game for the rest of the season. And what's more, we're still in April. It's, we've got the best record in baseball, but it's still April. Like, there's so much that can happen between now and the end of the season. Let's not get ahead of ourselves. These days are going to happen. And I think we actually said it before the season started that other than the Marlins, the Nationals were going to be a tricky team this year. And I don't think you can just expect to roll them over. They're not the team that they were last year. They have improved, and they are going to be a thorn in our side. They've beat the Dodgers as well this year. They're not a pushover by any means. I think this is not the last we're going to see of those pesky Nats this year. Tor, what's your thoughts? Because you've obviously seen every minute of every game, our night owl. What are your thoughts?
I think that, the sweep of the Phillies, we can't say enough about that. That's always going to be fun. and it does, especially so against them, it just feels like we've got their number. And the more we do it, they're professional athletes. It shouldn't get to them, but it's going to be in their heads. It's going to happen. We're going to feel like we're always going to beat them. They're going to feel like they're always going to lose, because that's what's happening right now. Long may it continue, is what I'm going to say about that. As far as the series with the Nats goes, you're right. You said that they're not the same. I mean, Abraham's coming on leaps and bounds. And actually, I was really impressed with Alex Cole in the series as well. Both with the bat and in the field. I think that he was pretty solid for them. He's one that I've not seen much of, so I was kind of, a little bit surprised with him. He just stood out for me throughout the series. So the first game that we lost to them wasn't as brutal as the second.
Yeah.
It wasn't nice, and of course, me being me, I was to the last out. So I was really thinking, I was like, come on, we're gonna have it, we're gonna do it, and then no. So I did get quite excited towards the end of that game, and it was pretty brutal at the time. Little did we know how brutal things could get. The 8-7 loss was. It wasn't. We've said this before. It wasn't that we lost; it was how we lost it. And again, it comes down to individual errors. Now, let's just say I am not going to be the person that's jumping on Jeff's back or Brandon's back. I mean, Brandon's made a couple of mistakes. Lindor's made a couple of mistakes already. I am like, it's going to happen, and we're not going to be invincible. So we have seen Jeff and Alvy both hitting now on their return. So that's really encouraging, and that's one thing that you would say. Although, Torrens is great with his bat. Senga was surprising with his bat, but he's not going to give us the same output offensively as the two of them together are. So we've got the improvement there, and then of course we've got Jeff ahead of Acuna/Beatty, whoever you want to put there, with his bat, and when he's on it. Let's not open that can of worms. He is capable of putting up some good numbers and being offensively better. But I think the difference with Jeff coming back this time is he needs to prove that he's better. He knows that there's genuine competition now. So he can't be complacent, and he has got to do the business with the bat. The only thing I would say from the week that's kind of beyond results themselves is, do we think we ought to be a little bit worried about Diaz? I mean, he didn't go back to back, and you'd have thought in the position that we were in the other night, he would have come in if it was just that they were trying to be careful with him. You'd have thought that they might have still risked him. You said that there was the hip problem, but that it was fine. Does it look fine, really, if he's not pitching back-to-back games as our closer?
Well, he's got one leg longer than the other. What can you say?
Yeah, Diaz is a tough one. I feel that some of this is partly a bit of protection going on, regardless of the injury. I think it's a case of they know he's not been great. Let's try and shield him from some of the criticism. There's obviously already conversation around the bullpen anyway, and burning them out early. We know that bullpen management's not perhaps the best strength for Carlos Mendoza. I think it's a fair criticism of him. He's still in his early days as a manager, but it's definitely one to keep an eye on. I don't see it. I said it somewhere. I can't remember if I said it too, but I can definitely see this rolling on till about the All-Star break with Diaz. I don't think it's going to be something that he's going to suddenly just wake up one day and it's all going to be fine. I think it's going to take a lot of these reps before it gets better.
I just fear that in that high level situation, it had to be Diaz, and if it wasn't, you have to wonder why. That's the thing for me.
Yeah, but it might not be a physical thing; it could be a mental thing. If he knows that things weren't right the day before, if that's in his head, then it's a mental injury, if you like. It's as bad as a physical injury, and it takes time to get over.
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll stick on that side of things with the news, because one of the potential options that we've got is Brooks Raley returning to the Mets. He has signed a 1-year deal with a team option at the end of the contract. This was first reported by Joel Sherman. It's been confirmed by the Mets today. So although that is the case, he is straight on the IL. He's not fully ready to go. So we're not going to see him straight away. But that's another bullpen option, which is definitely welcome, given the other news from the week, where we saw AJ Minter leave the game. He's on the IL with a left lat strain. Jose Reyna was called up to replace him, and by all accounts did a horrendous job appearance in last night's game. So much so that just before the show, and I'm glad the Mets done it before the show, because usually this is the kind of thing that happens when we press end recording. Reyna's been DFA'd, and Kevin Herget, I think that's how you say his name, he's a right-hand pitcher. He's been called up to replace Reyna. Just truly horrendous performance from him yesterday. Quite right decision to get rid of him. Not what you want to see from the bullpen. In other news, as you said, Tor, Senga and Beatty were sent down due to the return of Alvarez and McNeil. I think we've said it before, but it's worth saying again. Fair play, Hayden Senga. You know, he did a fantastic job whilst he was up. I'd love to see him back up at some point. Obviously, we know that if he is, that's due to an injury. So not wishing injury on anyone, but it's nice to know you've got a competent replacement if the worst was to happen. A few other injury updates. Paul Blackburn threw yesterday after he got ill, and it's made him lose a bit of weight. So there's a bit of concern there. He's throwing a bullpen session today as he continues his rehab return from his many injuries. Frankie Montas is now throwing from 120 feet. That means that he is still on track with his return to playing. Sean Manaea has started throwing from 75 feet. He's now going to begin throwing back-to-back days as the Mets continue his ramping up. The Mets did announce during their press release, I should say, earlier today, he's on the 60-day IL. It's probably, one of those things they've just got to announce at this point rather than a setback. So please don't read too much into that. And in other news, Mets prospect Raimon Gomez throws the fastest StatCast confirmed strikeout pitch in the minors over the past 5 seasons for the single-A St. Lucie Mets, clocking in at 104.5 miles an hour, which is terrifying. The thought of having to try and hit that one. Gomez, one to keep an eye on. Those of you that
watch out, Ben Joyce.
Other news, Bradley Marcelino is the new GB baseball head coach. So look forward to that.
Congrats, Bradley.
Away from the Mets. And one last stat, I had to get the stat in because this is a great stat. Mets starting pitchers have allowed 4 or fewer runs in each of their first 29 games of the season. This is the longest streak by a National League team to begin a season in the modern era, which means since 1901. So well done to the starting pitchers on that. Oh, deep breath. That's quite a lot that's happened over the week, mostly around injuries and updates and people coming and going. Any thoughts, Tracey?
I think it's great that Ramon Gomez is throwing so fast, but I also think that there needs to be a degree of protection around that arm. Don't want to blow his arm early, because there seems to be a trend where players are like, oh yeah, I can throw the fastest, but I also end up on Tommy John. And it's great that he can throw that fast. Doesn't mean he has to. With Minter, you could see he was struggling. So hopefully it will just be quite a straightforward thing, and he will be back up in the bigs quite soon. And overall, I'd say it's positive that Manaea and Blackburn and Montas are all on track for a return, because once they all come back, it's going to make our pitching even more nasty than it already is.
In theory.
No, there is no theory. It is fact. It is fact. I have decreed it. It is so. Yeah, so I'm going to miss Senga. I think he did really, really well for the time he was up, as we've said. But I think it was the right decision to let Beatty go down into the minors, and hopefully he can sort his head out and come back as a stronger player.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Tor, what about you?
Yeah, I was pretty gutted to see Minter go out the other night, just because he's been outstanding. I am buzzing about us being number one on the power rankings. We shouldn't care. It doesn't really matter, but it's always we get kind of overlooked for so many things and put down, and now they're starting to have to listen because this is now we're being consistently good, and so that's it's just almost like a validation and out there for all to see. So yeah, I am really pleased about that. I love stats too, so very happy about that. Look at our starting pitching ERA right now. It is so far ahead of everyone else. It's absolutely ridiculous. And people were worried about our pitching. I think I said at the start of the year, I was like, I'm not worried about pitching. It's good. We're okay. And we're more than okay. I wasn't expecting us to be this okay, I'll be honest. But I'm taking it. Good old Griffin doing the work.
Yep. A lot of humble pie being eaten, and I'm okay with that.
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely agree with Beatty going down. Part of me feels a little bit bad for him. I think he's given a better showing of it this time around than he has done previously. Yeah. Still not quite enough, and it's still a relatively straightforward decision. And there was something else amongst that I was going to comment on. I can't remember. It can't have been all that important. Oh, another piece of news. Happy birthday to Mr. Gary Cohen today.
Yes.
Happy birthday.
Yes.
We love our Metsies' birthdays.
We do. And we love our GKR.
We do love our GKR, of course. Speaking of, thoughts of Murph in the booth this last few days? Tom?
No, I was hoping you wouldn't come to me. It's difficult because it's kind of like, as we know, with like we were talking about Gelbs last week, the bar is ridiculously high with GKR. It's still early days for Murph. He's still only done a dozen or so broadcasts, so I'm not gonna go too harshly. He's a little dull, I'm not gonna lie, but I think that's just, again, it's just he needs to get used to it, needs to let a bit more of his personality out, tell a few more of his. He tells a really interesting story, and when he speaks about things from a playing perspective, it's worth a listen. There's just a few other bits that he needs to kind of work on. But I dare say he is, he's probably working hard behind the scenes, and he's got people, SNY, telling him. It's not horrendous. I mean, I'd rather Blevins of the former players giving it a go, but Murph's okay. I'd take him over Todd Zeal any day.
Yeah, I agree. He's a bit bland, but we are utterly spoiled with GKR. It's like if I watch any other broadcaster, I'm like, oh,
pretty much.
Oh, because other teams aren't given the critical freedom that GKR are given. They are told to be like, our team is the greatest all the time, every time. Or that's the impression I get anyway. And GKR are like, well, he stuffed that up. He did great on this. There's a good balance there. But I think, like you say, Tom, with time, Murphy will get better. It's how much time do you give him when you've got GKR?
Yeah, absolutely. What about you, Tom?
Yeah, I mean, I think, they're obviously, getting people involved now with that in mind, that all three of them really are taking more time off these days, which is completely understandable. So they need to have that crop of people there to fill in. I think that Murph's content is decent. I think a lot, like you said, Tom, he tells a really good story and he's got some really good insight. I think what he says is normally really interesting and useful. I think he just needs to work on the delivery. And I think that'll come with time. It's probably a confidence thing. And as he grows in confidence, he'll probably loosen up a little bit and, hopefully just bring a little bit more to it. But I think content wise, I think it's solid. So that's a good start because the kind of relaxing into it bit can come. So
yeah, I think the relaxing thing's key. Like, we got to remember, New York's a big market. A lot of people watch SNY. You're cutting your teeth in front of a large audience. It's not like you're doing it on a smaller network for one of the smaller teams. He's throwing himself in the deep end. So, on a positive note to end that, yeah, fair play to him for giving it a go. And like you said, it'll come with time. Whilst we're on the debates and the topics, we'll go into a couple of questions because, as always, we've put out anyone with any questions. Shout out to all the regular listeners and commenters who get involved on the socials, on YouTube. We see you, we appreciate you, we love you all. One of those people, Stuart, has been in contact again. Stuart asking video replays. Should we have them on the big screen in the ballpark so that these key decisions that have happened over the last week, should we put them on the big screen so that everyone in the ballpark can see? That's Stuart's question. Tracey, what's your thoughts?
They do it at City Field. They show it on the massive screen. So that's a positive. I don't think they do it in all ballparks, though. I'm sure I'll be corrected if I'm wrong. But I think that it should be shown because it gives a bit more insight to the crowd when they're getting on the umps or players, and they can say, oh, actually, I can see that was a good call or a bad call or whatever. And it might make a few people step back on criticisms where it's not due or where it is. But yeah, I think it should be shown like it is on the TV, because it just gives a bit more insight and adds a bit more flavour to the game.
Yeah, absolutely. I seem to remember as well, like you said, City Field are pretty good at it. It's just a question of the other ballparks and whether that's standard. Tor, what about you? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think the benefit probably outweighs the not doing it. I can understand people wanting to shy away from it a little bit, partly because umpires union, and partly because it can sometimes perhaps cause issues. But I think that transparency is what people want, and there's no reason. If we're sat at home, we're getting to see it. We're getting to see the replays on TV. So why shouldn't the people there get to see it? And like you said, it can change the mood, because if people are getting riled up thinking that a call is wrong and then actually it's reviewed and it's shown to be right, at least it can kind of just be like, okay. And similarly, you would expect that if it was a right call, called right that was wrong, it would then be corrected. So I don't see why not. I don't see what the harm would be. I think the benefit would be worthwhile.
Yeah, absolutely. Whilst we are talking about umpires and decisions, we have to go there after the last week. I have to be careful how I phrase this, don't I? Because there's been a few questionable calls, shall we say, that are debatable. Umpires Union will have their take on it.
Indeed.
Obviously, we've got our takes on it. For the people who've maybe not, I'm trying to step around this without being too controversial. Or do you want to explain like what's gone on in the last week that's particularly controversial around the umpires? Because I'm trying not to rage on this one.
And you expect me to do better? Really? Like, really? Okay. I mean, I think the main one that we have to talk about is they called out the clearly the triple play.
The catch that wasn't.
Not, exactly. The triple play that was not a triple play. It was never a triple play. And people still maintain and call it a triple play. No, it was not. It touched the freaking ground. It was not a catch. But it was so obvious, so clear, and you have to question the umpire's positioning on that. If they are not seeing that, how are they doing their job? Sorry, I'm assuming I'm going to get us into trouble. I told you I can't do a better job. They are the things that they have to see. They are the things that we have to be able to challenge, because that was massive. It was a massive decision. It was an obvious one. It was very clear how Mendoza managed to. He was raging. I have never seen him like that. He was raging, but in such a way that he knew exactly where that line was and didn't cross it. How he didn't get thrown out. I love that he didn't get thrown out, because I think that shows that he can have that level of control. So he was clearly getting his point across, but in such a way that he wasn't disrespectful and didn't kind of lower himself and put the rest of the game in jeopardy by not being around for it. So he's a better person than me for sure, because I was not quite so well behaved.
Yeah. Tracey?
The call was egregious, but I think that some of the blame can be put down to the MLB rules, because it's not a reviewable play. But from my personal watching of it, it looked like the second base umpire had the call right, because he called the player on second safe.
Yeah.
And you could argue that that play changed the course of the game. We could have quite easily scored from that.
Exactly.
And I will give credit where it's due. The crew chief umpire did very well with Mendy, and sort of walked him back to the bullpen, let him have his rant, let him get it out of his system, did it away from the players, the other umpires, let him take it out on him, and neither got so irate that Mendy got chucked. So I will give him credit for that. But he could have called a crew chief review, and although it's not a reviewable play, it can be reviewed if the crew chief chooses to review it. And that is my issue with that. He could have taken that step back and said, look, even if he said for peace, let's review it, which he can do, because that is in his power as crew chief. And he was the one that made the call that it was a catch. It felt like he didn't want to double down on his own call.
Exactly.
And that particular crew made a lot of poor calls. And I think that should be reviewed by the Ump League and MLB.
Agreed.
Okay. I'm going to finish off that just by saying on the counter of it, they are human. Obviously, it's impossible to get every call completely perfect for the sake of balance. And I feel that over the course of a season with 162 games, these things do tend to balance themselves out eventually. There will be a time where one of those decisions will go in the Mets' favor just for the sake of balance, trying to keep this.
I thought I was really diplomatic with my answer.
Yeah,
Well done.
You were.
Proud of myself.
Those of you not involved in the show, let us know in the comments, what are your thoughts about the umpires over this last week? Please try and keep it fairly family friendly, because the filters will automatically block your comments if they're too explicit. That's a YouTube.
And like Thomas said, please remember they're humans too.
Yeah, they are.
Don't
Yeah.
get personal.
Yeah, absolutely. So to wrap things up and to look ahead to the next week, 7 games for the Mets over the next week. We have got a 3-game series at Citi Field against the Diamondbacks starting today. The Thursday game is UK friendly. There's then 3 games away at the Cardinals, Saturday and Sunday games, UK friendly on this bank holiday weekend. Whoop, whoop. And Diamondbacks on the road. First game of that will be before next week's show. So 7 games over the next week. Thoughts and predictions. What are we going to be looking at this time next week? We were kind of on the money with the 4-2 last week. Tracy, what do you think?
I think we are going to go 2-1 in the first series against the D-backs, sweep the Cards, and win the first game of the next Diamondback series.
So that's a 6-1 from Tracy.
Yeah.
Toria?
Wow. I'm the optimistic one, but I'm actually going to be a little more balanced, I think. I think that D-backs, they kind of keep going in peaks and troughs. They're either playing really well or really poorly. So it depends on which we're going to get. I favour us at home, obviously. So I think we'll take that series. I don't think we're going to sweep it. I think Cards, we should beat them comfortably. That's the problem, because that's generally where we slip up. They are doing terribly right now. But that means that, you know, they're probably due a couple of wins. And if teams like the Cards and the D-backs can't get up for playing us when we're leading all of baseball, then they're in trouble. So you know that they're gonna face us and they're gonna be up for us. So I think again, drop probably one of those. Also with the travel as well, going to St. Louis. I know it's not a million miles, but just without an off day, etc. And then probably win the first D-backs one. So 5-2. It's not that's all right, isn't it?
Yeah.
So,
I would like to say 5-2. I've got a feeling it's going to be 4-3. I think we might drop one of the Diamondbacks ones at home, and I wouldn't be surprised if we lost the Cardinals series 2-1, just because we swept them in a 4-game series. I think they'll be out for revenge, and like you say, Tor, I think they are due, and it would be a Mets thing to happen. So it wouldn't surprise me if we sat here next week looking at 4-3, although I would love it to be 5-2.
I wouldn't be mad with 4-3. I'll take that now.
Yeah, still positive. We're still winning more than we're losing. So yes, I would take that as well.
And as you said earlier, it's still so early in the season.
It's still April.
It's still April. And
you know what though? Sorry, I know that we're getting into that and we are wrapping up, but we have to play the 162 games, right? I hear this all the time. It's only April. We've got loads to go. But the games that we've played, we're not going to get them back. We're not getting those games back. We have to win the games when we play. It doesn't matter that it's April. It doesn't matter whether it's April. It doesn't matter whether it's August. I know people say it's important to get hot after All-Star and towards August and September. It is important to get hot then. But let's enjoy getting hot now, because actually that gives us a little bit of leeway further down the line. You have to win.
Room.
Exactly. You have to. It doesn't matter when in the year one of the games come. They still all count towards the 162. So, sorry, that was my little rant, because I hear it so much. Everyone say it's only April. It's only blah 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 blah. They all count. They're all part of the 162. They're all important. Every single one.
Don't want to go like, we're going to win the season because we've won April.
Oh, 100%. But it's good that we've won them now. We've got them in the bank. That's it.
Absolutely.
That's it. Sorry,
Okay.
I've been a bit ranty.
It's
I'm
okay.
sorry.
It's all good. Ranting is good. Let us know your rants in the comments about the umpires and video replays. We'd love to hear them. Keep them family friendly and all that jazz. We will be back same time next week, bringing you all things Mets. Once again, don't forget to like, subscribe, comment, share, all that good stuff, so we can bring this content to more amazing people across UK, Europe, and beyond. If you're listening in the UK, have a very lovely bank holiday weekend in the sun. And all that leaves us to say is, let's go Mets.
Let's go Mets.